Conecting aqui no LinkedIn to 96. Connecting no LinkedIn. Hello, guys. We are live again. I hope you are live. Yep, I think we are live. So we are live today for our 5th episode. And the idea today is talk about why enterprise buys low. And it's a very important topic for the times of the AI, like when companies are trying to sell AI to companies, and the distinction, and that is not a wrong thing. Okay, that's slow doesn't mean wrong or right. It's a fact. It's a fact of life. I wanted to start talking a little bit about my own experience when I was a part of an enterprise trying to buy, in my case, trying to buy new technology. At the time was cloud. Cloud, literally, the cloud, Google Cloud, more specific, Google Workspace. But before that, let me say hi to my co-host. Hi, Rodrigo Matos.
Hey, Joe. Thank you for having me again. Great
Yeah.
topic today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I will start talking a little bit about my own experience, which was a decade, more than a decade ago. And at the time, we were trying to buy Google Workspace. We were trying to implement Google Workspace. In the time, we're enterprise, 20,000 users across 5 countries. It took like 6 months to IT accept the change. When we convinced everyone in IT, then we went to legal because there wasn't a model, there wasn't an enterprise model to run email from the cloud. Microsoft wasn't, like the top vendor at the time, wasn't pushed too much to move to Exchange in the cloud. Themselves were not that interested because their money making was licensing. And here, a guy from Brazil moved to a US company and new ideas. And these new ideas started with trying to migrate those 20,000 users to companies. And what I learned at the time is that enterprise, they have two things that differentiate them from startups, and what make them an enterprise, like what make an enterprise is culture and data, right? They know how things work even without all the documents and everything. Like there's a culture in these companies who, it's a substrate that we need to understand and respect. And there's also data, so there is reports and past experiences were really documented, and that make them survive for crisis and make them an enterprise. So until AI or vendors understand that the companies have this needed or these two substrates, which are past, right? They are not about the future. So we need to respect, and they have their own doors of entry. And as soon as we get them, uh, we are able to sell, or as soon as we understand, at the time we were able to sell the Google Workspace to the entire enterprise, and we had a successful migration of 20,000 people across 5 countries. But today I'm not here to talk about um, Google Workspace. I'm Joe Zamboni, as you may know. I build AI in production, and today we hear about why enterprise buys low than you think. This is an apologetic signal, our podcast. So let's start about talking about these two substracts. I think that's the first thing that we need to take out in front of us. Culture, first one. It's not vibe, right? People don't vibe culture. I think we talked about this podcast already. That I think it's one of the Walmart founders or something like that. That I don't remember who said that, but like culture eats strategy for breakfast or something like that. There's a known
Yeah.
phrase. So it's not only but it's like all those small things that like the way change happens in the company, the way like someone has to sign in, even if it's not on the title, like if that person doesn't know about that, they have to sign off or on the idea, or that person that knows everything about that specific system and that they become part of, or that group that does something that is not on their title but they end up doing the responsibility. So all those daily things, or the weekly coffee meeting that happens between two people in the company that decide some things, or how to treat new vendors and why it's important to share data with the vendors that have a SOC 2. Uh, like those are part of cultural things. It's like sometimes are documented, sometimes are just expectations that I have. Like someone in procurement, oh, do you have this document? It's not written anywhere. It's like you just ask, or like why finance wants an ROI. Maybe there's no document in finance to require an ROI, but it's expected. Like they want return on investment, right? And it what made the enterprise an enterprise. Like respect the culture is important, and culture is about the past as also data. Data are numbers, right? So they have dots. They make look beautiful. Like they have a dot in the number, and the number is representative for the past 5 years or 10 years. And people are deciding things on throughout COVID or throughout several things. Like not the companies all survived, but the ones that survived, the enterprises that survived throughout all the crises, they have data to back up like their decisions and things like that. So and now comes the autonomous agent to the thing, right? Like, okay, there's no data about this strange guy who wants to change my workflow. Um, there's no other enterprise using it. Most of the case nowadays, it's just a strange guy who wants to change everything that worked. So why would you change? And there is a point on this that some or most vendors don't understand, is that if enterprise change as fast as startups change, they wouldn't be enterprise. Like startups, they fail at 90%. You don't see enterprise fail at 90% rate, right? So there is inherent benefit of being not slow, but being having this history, because decisions are made based on the history. So that's the cycle that mostly uh, AI, every new technology is like that. So I had Google at my neck, or the vendors. Like I was the motivation, the agent motivational behind the Google Workspace, but at the same time I had the legal, finance, everyone in the company trying to figure out, like all these substracts of the company trying to figure out if what Joel's idea was a good one. And I had support from management, which was good, which helped me. But I also had Google say, why they don't want to move. So you see, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. It's like I have raw experience of, like, 15 years ago, something. No, something like that, 14, 15 years, something like that, of moving an enterprise to something new. There's all these forces acting on the same. They all have a good intent. There's nothing wrong with any one of them. It's like when you think about breaking the email system, like that is the way that people communicate every day. Like replace Outlook or calendar, or at the time there was no Teams, thank God. But but there was a Skype, I think. I don't know. Internally, no, they were using
I
WebEx,
am.
I think.
WebEx
No,
for
WebEx.
Cisco.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for meetings. Yeah, Cisco WebEx for
Yeah.
meetings. And that wasn't a Google Meet either. It was like Hangouts or something. That was not a product that we. I mean, we end up using Hangouts at some point, and then they changed it to another name, and then now is Google Meet
Yeah.
throughout the history of.
Microsoft
Go
had
ahead.
Microsoft IM as well. They had video calls. Yeah.
Something like that. I don't
Yeah.
remember exactly what they had, but the company wasn't using that. It was using WebEx at the time. I don't think I saw the other day on CNN news they were using WebEx. Like, wow, still out there. Someone is using
It is.
WebEx.
I worked
That
with
is,
Cisco and they really love WebEx.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
it was a good product. I'm not
Yeah.
saying bad things about anyone, but like, and then came Zoom, and now Zoom is the master of meetings. It's a little annoying, but now it's like every meeting that I join, trying to take notes. Like, why? I didn't invite you to my meeting.
But going back to where you were, Joel, you had to deal with all of these different stakeholders, right? Being the person who was behind the like the initial idea, or were you were the promoter of that idea, right? And I guess you were explaining how difficult or challenging it was to deal with that.
Yeah. So there's all these, and many people will go with this either like on the other side, or like and just trying to protect what was working, and trying to find ways to adopt the new technology. The interesting part is that I learned this for my life, right? So we had developed all those ways to change user behavior at the time. I don't think even Google had tested some of the frameworks that they developed, but some were good. Like the early adopters, you find the people who are most in favor and most against, and bring them together to be the early adopters. So they will have access to the platform first. So, because most of the time, when a person is trying to push back, they are trying to help actually. So they will end up helping you. Which is different now is because agents, it's not about like end user change, right? You have to change the workflow, which is built on top of the culture and the data. So it's something, the exchange of information between two areas now will be made by a couple or a few agents that will do the work, and who monitor them, who owns them. I think that even was the original title of our episode when we were deciding about it. It's like, who owns the agent now? The agent that does um, customer data enrichment, no, or no, something like that, or because the agent has some goal, right? So the goal, like, who decides the goal of the agent in an enterprise, and then the enterprise look at their culture and their data, and there's no parallel, like there's no information about this entity. So it's an interesting challenge. What do you
Yeah,
think, Roger?
this is what I was going to ask, because when we look at first, like what makes a company an enterprise, right? Because the company, I mean, it's a big company, loads of people, like thousands of employees, and several different processes. But we have like new, like young enterprise as well, right? And I guess this young enterprise companies, they not necessarily have the historical data of like trials and proofs of concept that went wrong to back up their decision, but they have the people, right? So I guess the culture plays a important role in this sense, because at the end of the day, you mentioned that at the beginning of the today, not necessarily most of it, but a big chunk of culture is not documented, right? It's just like it's what people organically will how people organically will understand things and treat things inside an organization. And that's why I believe the people culture and basically people build culture, right? But what I was going to say is how do we get out of this? Because it is already difficult to sell to enterprise with the whole uh, um, historical data, and if they have numbers to back decisions up, knowing like, okay, if we go this way, maybe it will work out for us. But when there's nothing, like, how are we going? How is enterprise going to buy AI? How is enterprise going to adopt these agents if they, if, as you're saying, they don't really have something to compare with?
So let me tell another story. For me, as a Brazilian English speaker, right? The first time that I had contact with the word enterprise was watching Star Trek as a
Yeah.
kid, right? Which for me is a ship. Like that's my like raw notion of enterprise means like it's a ship or something that has a destination with a bunch of people working together to do that thing. And this is basically the definition, right? So an enterprise is basically a organization which, in my mind, right, not the definition of any book, but for me, and I think some correlation with reality. You have this organization that has this shared objective, like a bunch of agents working together or something like that, which is humans, right? Build those infrastructures, those substrates, culture and data and experience across the whole company. So when we see some new technology like the cloud or like the AI or even computers at some point were new thing, right? Even everything that's come new, or Uber or Airbnb, there's company that allow people to rent Airbnb instead of hotels, things like that. So everything that we see a new technology, there's come decisions. Either the change could happen because enough of the users or the people in the company is starting to use technology. So when OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, or companies allow normal user for free their technology, is a way to trigger this bottom up approach to use the new technology. So it's like everybody in the company, in the department, is using ChatGPT personally to do something. Oh, okay, maybe we could use in the work. So things start to like bottom up. Or you have one CEO who decides to, okay, now it's a good thing that if we can do this with AI because you gives me this, I can spread this and my company will have the benefits of it. That is something that could happen. But then in both scenarios, we'll have the the culture and the data to say, hey, who are you? What are you? Like either the CEO can push through and be like the brand who will push through this thing, or the teams can start to poking up, right? Oh, can you do that? Can you do that? We need this, we need this, this is good, this is good. And then the whole thing will be together. Like then what happened, and that most vendors skip, is we start having the pilot, right? So now is the subtract with one of its doors or entrances saying, okay, let me look into this. And then we start the pilots. And then we have these 6 months where the culture can evaluate, oh, it does this. Oh, now I know. Oh, it plugs here. And we start having data about it. Oh, it look at this and it did behave like this. So it's not that it's unchangeable culture and data is unchangeable. Is that this new entity has to enter this world. So you have these pilots that take 6 months, a year, and they start to develop their own culture and their own data inside the organization. And now the organization can absorb and can learn. That is like unbelievable. Like because you can have new and old companies have the same bottlenecks, right? because you don't need, like, you can have even companies with existing. That's another way, right? The companies that you see that had early adopters on AI or generative AI, they already had internal AI teams for other characters like machine learning or others. So those companies, they had on their culture or culture or data knowledge about what machine learning could do. So they had this experience. So now they have this work that was done by a rudimentary agent now can be done by a better, smarter agent that misbehaves sometimes, but the other two. So you can still have some parallels, or the parallels are close. So those companies are easier to change because of this technology was already known. So you have all these differences that can be exploited or explored. No, exploited is a bad word, but like can be used, right?
That that's cool. I want to make um, if we look at famous cases like Kodak and Blockbuster, right? I guess I don't really know the case, but or both cases like deeply, but I guess Kodak at some point their substrate said maybe going digital is not a very good idea. It's dangerous. And Blockbuster with Netflix and the streaming services, maybe their substrate also said like, hold on, maybe that's not the way we should go. Uh, are we like are other enterprise in danger of a substrate also attacking, or because we were discussing this, the substrate is like a high immune system, right? uh, can it maybe this high immune system attack the things that aren't actually threats and that could, like AI for example, that if a company knows how to use AI, like in the power of AI, they would enable an enterprise to do wonderful things, right? Uh,
Yeah,
I guess you're
that's
gonna
an
say that.
interesting point. So there is like an example. I think was reading about Blockbuster the other day or some information that their shareholder at some point had a decision about, I think there was like late fees and they were making a lot of money, and they changed the CEO, and the CEO saw, no, that's a wrong thing to do, and they end up removing the CEO because it was a burden. Like they lost money with all this, but like the decision was right. I think there are some kind of business that they make money with a specific way. They found the way to make money. Like the data is like, we make money this way. And they cannot see other ways to monetize the whole business, that they end up um, in a way that like the mark don't accept them anymore. Like there is the whole culture and data or culture is also outside of the company. Like there are companies that cannot deal with changes in culture. Like digitalization is one thing that happened with Kodak and Blockbuster, that they could the society, right? There's a culture and they cannot deal with someone that doesn't, and that is when enterprises end up being out of the market, right? So there is a problem, and on their case it was a decision that their culture pushed back until it killed their own business. So there's a problem that uh and I wouldn't say, how can I say, it's not that it's a bad thing. Sometimes it's better that some forms of uh, companies or dysfunctional companies, they end up being replaced by other ones than being afloat. But it is a problem that like can be avoided. Like you see an example, companies that keep reinventing themselves because they have a small um, like they have a small, I wouldn't say small, but like they have a very specific objective. Like they want to, I don't know, that's new generation of culture, like uh, Apple or Microsoft that keep reinventing themselves and keeping thriving with technology, or even uh, the Hathaway, like the Berkshire Hathaway, like they keep, uh, which is a big private equity. Basically, they keep reinventing their own business with different, because they are focused on, like an example. I was watching a presentation of what's the name of Berkshire right away? It's very famous. I forgot his name. My God, I forgot his
Yeah.
name. He just Warren Buffett. So he is just retired. So he was saying like, oh, why don't you invest in, I don't know, gold? And then he was saying, people don't eat gold or something like that. Like end of his speech was like, I rather invest in companies who make money out of selling food, selling things to humans, because it doesn't matter that the money will lose value for him in his mind. He just raised the price, so that's fine. Like, doesn't matter, gold increased the value, he increased the price of food, and this is what happened. So, but he still sells several things for to humans, right? Sell food, which is, I think, uh, is a different approach, and I think it's much more valuable to humanity than investing gold. That's just my thinking.
Uh, I know that the time is like running. I had more questions to you, but I will ask you what we do tomorrow morning, which is usually how we go to the signal of the podcast. Like, so what do we do tomorrow morning? We want to sell to enterprise, or we are like you were in the enterprise you worked for, the person who wants to implement something new. Like, let's bring the agent to the conversation again. So what do we do?
Yeah, I think the idea, like, you have different perspectives, like we always mention. You have the enterprise leader, like what enterprise leader do, or like when a vendor tell you something new, asking compared to what. If they can't ground their answer, you are the prototype customer, and that's fine. It's like you just price it like a declare. Okay, it's a new thing. I want a new thing. They cannot ground the answer in something that they already did. Let's do it. They have the knowledge. They just don't apply it. So let's do it. You have the AI vendor, right? The other side. Um, Stop pitching what your product is. Like, start pitching what is connected to. Try to connect to some parts of the business. Like, there is plenty of analogies with AI and your in business. Like, don't chase announcements or things like that. So I think that's for us, for the AI vendors, right? So try to connect. There's holes there. And then for the buyer, right? So ask, what's the closest thing to us that has 12 months running, or what happened in month 13. If they cannot answer, you have the answer already. It's, again, it's I think AI is a technology that it is a bubble right now, but is a different bubble than what was, let's say, cryptocurrency, an example. You didn't have, like, there's no way that cryptocurrency will spread across normal humans, like people that cannot uh, understand what a ledger or things like that is. It's much more complex than, or far from normal normies, which is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. But AI, it is, I think, is here to stay. Like, not as AGI or SGI, whatever you want to call, like super AGI or whatever. Uh, it is as a tool, like as a copilot, I think more. And as soon as you adopt it, it helps you to be faster. It's not part of the culture yet, but when it becomes, it'll be much much helpful. I think that's what I have to say.
That's awesome, Joe. I think the big lesson here, at least for me, is um, enterprise functions like that because they have to, right? They have. That's how an enterprise can survive, right? They have to have the substrate. We have to deal with it, and like it's not. They will end up adopting AI in agents in a large scale. We have enterprise with AI in production, for sure, right? But we have to deal with it from these different scenarios and like adapt. And I think that's cool. And I love the analogy with what Warren Buffett said because that AI does that, right? It is changing how people live. Not I'm not saying that necessarily for good. I am pro AI. I use AI. We use AI every day. It is awesome, but can also be a little bit. Um, well, we can discuss that in another episode. But I like how I guess this is the power of AI, right? It is impacting people. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and then there's also like an example. If enterprises were not slow, there would be no vendors to sell
yeah,
to them because they would do.
they would create themselves, right? Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
like, okay, oh, we can do this. It's easy. Like they have the money, they have the people. Like boom. So don't complain because they can be your customers because they have this, but they also couldn't if they were not like that. So yeah,
And companies are doing that, right? I just
yeah.
today I read a LinkedIn post saying, "Oh, we paid $100,000 a year for this software, and our engineer created the same thing in a week." Uh,
Yeah, we're thinking to do the same thing with the software that we use to do the
with this
podcast.
one, yeah.
Yeah, with the podcast company. Yeah, we are thinking to do with that. Like I'm itching. I'm like, do I do a podcast software?
Uh, well,
Yeah.
thank
All
you,
right.
Joe.
Thank you, Rodrigo. See you next week.